Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Andy.
Still in Madison Square Garden here, aren't
You're
I?
still in Madison Square Garden. That's fine. That's a fun place to be.
It is.
We are going to put a bow on the month of February. February already over. Can you freaking believe it? February it is a wrap here. March is around the corner. There's going to be a lot of college basketball content coming up, obviously. A lot of NBA content coming up, which I'm excited about. But we are going to do an evergreen pod today. Does that sound like fun?
Yeah, conference tournaments start today. And again, we'll let you in on the secret. We recorded this last Friday because Drew is on vacation. Everybody, Noops is on vacation starting tomorrow. Noonan's going golfing. Everyone I know is going on vacation this week. I should have just scheduled. I guess it's good I didn't schedule a week off because otherwise.
Hey, next time we'll collaborate. You can bring you're getting your kids into the skiing. Bring them out to the Rockies. Yeah. Bring them out to the Rockies next spring break. That'll be fun.
I've got to get her some more runs on the easy Minnesota slopes before we go to the it's a whole different game out there where, I'm trying to think of the longest run at the one I go to. Maybe takes 45 seconds to get down, it's not the same as hey, you might ski downhill for half an hour if you go out west.
I'm just excited. Yeah, you got to come out to Park City. I'll get you on the mountain and we'll give you some of the near beer and you'll be like, what's going on here? Nothing's happening. It's a fun place to ski though. The skiing out here is absolutely outstanding. And realistically, the conditions right now could not be more, I couldn't be more excited about.
Just wild that one of my favorite distilleries is from Utah.
Yes.
High West. Not sponsored by High West, but no. If they are listening, I'd consider it. I love a lot of their whiskeys.
I'll anti-sponsor them this week because I will go and get it and spend a lot of money there. I will be depositing some funds at the High West Distillery to support them. But yeah, no, I'm very, very fired up for Park City. Anyway,
so yes, let's do an evergreen pod. Yeah, the NEC tournament. I don't know what time it is because again, it's Friday. I haven't checked what time that play-in game is, but tournament starts today. We're going to do some more college basketball stuff throughout the tournament. We'll do some more NBA in the few weeks here. Obviously, we got the NFL draft coming up. It's kind of a fun time of year. There's a lot of shit coming up. We have the Masters. We have the Derby, the Baffertless Derby. There's a lot of fun things. And today we're going to go a little different. Drew, why don't you this was your idea, and I liked it.
Yeah.
And we're going to run with it. And
okay.
We don't know where this is going.
No, this is crazy. So, without question, among the folks that are interested in the deep dive, among the hardcore handicapping community, there are a lot of people I think who listen and care about this podcast who are on the bookmaker side of the counter. And I think that there's a little bit of a vacuum after the NFL season is over where, a lot of you reflect on how the season went, not just from an individual better standpoint, but what is the state of the industry a little bit. And there's been a ton of pieces, a ton of podcasts, a ton of content kind of zeroing in on what is going on with the burgeoning sports market here in the United States. Of course, Canada about to join us. Of course, more and more states becoming legal and adding to the gold rush that is kind of capturing the U.S. sports bettor. And it's a fun and exciting time, but it's been pretty obvious that there have been wild hiccups. I don't know. Hiccups not the right word. We're hurdles, growing pains. There we go. There are clearly growing pains with the U.S. market in terms of the current cost of customer acquisition is outrageous. The amount of ad spend, if you want any kind of a market share in the existing states, is pretty unbelievable. And that's putting strain on a lot of these books to turn profit, on top of the fact that some of the bookmaking practices are pretty suspect. The limiting of customers, the way that books become profitable is definitely a hot topic among the advantage players, I would say. And so, I think there are a million avenues we could explore here, but rather than...
I have a question too, before we get into the million avenues. I had certain opinions on how the landscape of legalized sports betting would look in America before right when PASPA was repealed. I had a very naive look at how things would work. Once New Jersey went live, once a couple other states started popping up, and we realized who the true power players were going to be in the space. I had let's call it my second, reckoning of like, all right, this is how things are going to go. This is how things are going to go. And I'll say right now, I really thought we'd see quicker consolidation. Consolidation is happening. Just right now, like, hey, Twin Spires quit sports booking yesterday. Yeah, from when we're recording this, they're down to the smaller operators are always going to have trouble unless they can offer something unique, and that's a big problem. I thought we'd see a lot more consolidation, and I really thought it was going to be FanDuel, DraftKings, 1A, 1B, and then a big gap. And now where we sit here on the 25th of February, 2022, it's FanDuel in a big gap in my mind. And and there are some other operators that are right there with the DK, and they have the money, they have the technology. Some of them already had the infrastructure set up because they are known brands like the Caesars and the MGMs of the world. And I think our view of it and what actually happens is going to continue to change. But it's been very interesting to see things like Circa, things like Barstool, just completely different models of doing things be successful in certain points in the market. And I'm not an economist. And you know what? Most economists suck at their job. Like, they're bad at predicting stuff. You can go read all kinds of hilarious Paul Krugman quotes from way back in the day.
Internet's a fad.
Yeah, it's the fax machine's the most important thing. But I don't know what's next. I try to think about it. I'm curious to your thought. Like, from when PASPA was repealed, back when it was, you could sports bet in Vegas, to now, like, how has your outlook changed on and for maybe some forward-facing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, boy, I have a healthy respect for where I sit and where we sit as far as people. My opinion doesn't really matter on a lot of this because
that's the thing. I don't think anyone's does.
Not just my opinion doesn't matter, but like, I just recognize there's a lot of people who have very strong opinions about this that know a shitload more than I know. And I'm just kind of like, I'm fine not really making predictions or really trying to understand it. And again, because I'm in California and I feels like I'm a million years away from actually being able to play at any of these places, I kind of don't even really care. Like, I'm mostly just like, oh, okay. Like, when there's like people fighting over like limiting practices and what's a reason, like, I get both sides of the argument, so I kind of am just like, well, let's see how this plays out. So but I think your point is correct in that if you had given me a market and you'd said, hey, how is this going to look in 3 years in New Jersey or in New York or some of the kind of the bigger, more important states, Illinois, I don't think I would have said that you would have had a FanDuel one. And then I think DraftKings has probably underperformed, and I think the MGMs and Caesars of the world have overperformed.
Yeah, that's the biggest surprising part to me, I think.
And
the fact that there would be a bar. When again, put yourself back 4 years almost now.
Yeah.
The fact that there would be a Barstool Sportsbook at all. The fact that the Circa would be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Some of the smaller operators in Colorado and some of the other states are doing. And I guess the least surprising thing is the heavy-handedness of some of the local and state governments who've ruined some of these states with their high tax rates and the fact that they're letting lottery officials run things. That least surprising thing. And like you said, it's our opinions don't mean much, I think. And this isn't the podcast we wanted to make today. I just thought it was an interesting aside. If you want to try to keep up, like you said, there's people that track this a lot closer and a lot smarter and know the business, know the ins and outs. Like, follow Captain Jack if you're not already. At Captain Jack 2000. Follow Alfonso Strafone, Fonz on, I can't think of his Twitter, but I mean, just there's not that many Alfonsos in the sports betting and information part of the guy that Captain Jack does that weekly little podcast with, Spivak. Follow him. Those guys
Brad Allen, our guy, Brad Allen.
Brad Allen, great
coverage. Yeah,
great coverage. Just Brad Allen's those four guys. They cover a lot of the business of. If that's interesting to you, there's a ton of coverage, and I think you can learn a lot about where things are going. And maybe you would have been the guy shorting the DK stock.
I guess right now the truths that I think you can identify if you are trying to make any kind of predictions going forward, if you're playing the market, if you're buying stocks, blah 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 blah. This next 6 months is going to be pretty violent. I think we went from a time where there was massive spend on customer acquisition.
I was going to say what
NFL
event,
specifically.
Yeah, what event do you think was the delineation?
The Super Bowl.
Yes, I know that. Like
yes.
Yeah. There is we're the part of the season that does not involve NFL football.
Yes,
is way different for these operators.
Yes. So what I know about the U.S. customer, and this is largely based on my experience as a player, is they deposit at the beginning of NFL season, they play their account balance to zero, and then maybe they redeposit for more NFL. maybe they deposit for some college bowl season, play their way to zero, and if they have balance remaining after the Super Bowl, then they donk it all away in college basketball and March Madness. And if there's anything left at the end of March Madness, they withdraw, or they, let the account balance sit there until fall.
Or there's some NBA playoffs or baseball, but it is harder to get like the promotions.
That's your average player, right?
The promos you build around NFL Sunday and the event, just the social event, it's part of culture. It is Sunday NFL is a cultural event in America.
Surely.
And the promos you build around that and the hype that your team is playing for this weekend is like, there's something to that. You can't build that same kind of hype. And there's not, the baseball game, your baseball team plays 5-6 times a week. There isn't that singular event that they can just really drive people to get excited and deposit money for baseball. It's just not the same thing. And it'll like you said, the next 6 months will be super interesting to see how some of these sports books do, because deposits are going to be much harder to come by.
So again, I'm assuming that most of the U.S. players are somewhat, or at least like the new players, like all of this customer acquisition you've gone about spending all this money for, you're bringing in newish players, right? And I don't know that you're going to get those gals to redeposit until the fall, realistically. And so I think the next 6 months is going to be kind of brutal. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of pain probably across the space, as it's like, wow, we spent the money, all this advertising spend to acquire customers, and they're not even playing here, or they just played their deposits and their bonuses down to zero, and now they're not redepositing. Like, what's going on? Like, the NFL wags the tail for so much of everything that I think it's going to be a rough couple of months until it comes back, which is crazy because there's so much going on in sports that's fascinating right now. The March Madness is wide open. The NBA is wide open. Golf is in an extremely healthy state right now. Baseball obviously never really been a huge handle driver in the first place, and them potentially not starting their season, might be a problem, I guess. But ultimately there is a lot to bet on, and you would think that anyone that's really kind of gotten a taste for this and is taking this seriously and wants to play and be entertained by this would be engaged. But I think I think you're going to see things will dry up. It's just not going to matter. Nothing moves the needle like the NFL, period. And so I think there'll be some tough times in the next couple of months, and it'll be fascinating to see how it shakes out. That said, I think there are some other truths you can kind of point to. I think realistically, the U.S. bettor is very different than the European bettor in terms of the way that they play and the style of player. And so I think anyone that came in with the European model is learning the hard way. Who they're dealing with as far as the U.S. customer goes. Similarly, I think it's pretty obvious that by and large, the people at the top of a lot of these companies, maybe they understand business very well, but they certainly don't understand gambling. They certainly don't understand betting markets very well. And there's an entire class of player that is sort of the advantage player or expected long-term winner who feels extremely underserved by the market outside of the Circas. I think ultimately there are truths to basically every single opinion and argument you've heard from a lot of the sharp minds and voices in the space that we follow and talk to in gambling Twitter about the way things should be done, which leads us into today's podcast topic. Andy, how should we do things? Like that was really what I wanted to get to ultimately, which is like let's put ourselves in the chair of, we have been approached by some hedge fund that has
we just got our seed money check. Yeah,
we just got our seed money check. Hey, we have the inside track to what do you call it? A license, a sports betting license, and we need your help to craft a book to take on the weaknesses in this market, because we don't think that the perfect answer has not been, we have not threaded the needle yet. There has not been someone who has come to the table that is really completely taking over a la the Bet365s in Europe kind of a deal, right? Like somebody comes to us and says, hey, we're going to give you this money. We want you to create a product in the sports betting space that will be successful. Andy, I will give you first choice to kind of craft your brand. What are some of the kind of tenets that you're going to go for as you put together your sports betting brand? Andy Book.
Do you remember the podcast we did the other day about betting new sports?
Sure.
And we got to the NBA, and you said the answer is don't start betting the NBA now.
Yes.
That's the answer to this too. Starting a sport, like, that's why this is a fun hypothetical, because the true answer is like, are we really going to try to outspend the big boys? And I think that's the crux of this whole argument is, depending how much money the seed money is, it's still not enough, because you'll never outspend the money, the old guard fantasy apps, the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the established Vegas, and even some other parts of the country, the ACs, Biloxi, other gambling towns where these places already had properties, Caesars FanDuel or Caesars MGM. Like, you're not going to outspend them, so you have to probably figure on just creating a product that's better, create a product that's good and in different ways. And I think it starts with the complaints. Like, we start with the complaints about normal books. And to be fair, I'm a pragmatic man. I understand. Like, somebody we know was limited on college basketball player props, and he said, I've never even played one of these before. And he brought it up, and I said, and I know what he plays. I know the kind of stuff he bets, and he's limited in other things. I'm like, hey, that makes perfect sense. If you're sitting there betting other soft markets, I would, as an operator, if I was going to limit someone, I would look at every single soft market that people have ever hit you hard for. And if somebody's going to get limited, you don't just limit them on NBA props because they beat you on NBA props. If they're going to be a problem like that, limit you across the board on anything that's not side and totals. Like, soft markets, you're done. Like, you're betting $14 on that now. Like, I get it. I understand why that's the model. And that's the first part, is how do you get around that? Because if you do want to cater to people who will want to bet and stuff like that, you have two choices. You go the Circa route, and you don't offer a lot. You go the route of the book that has major markets, high limits, sharp lines, no real limiting. But if you want to be that's my question to throw back to you. What if you wanted to offer stuff like player props? Because a lot of people are doing that with third-party feeds. They're not originating those. They're not coming up with those lines. They're not likely risk managing those. A lot of those probably auto movers, things of that nature. So, I mean, how much, I don't know. I'd have to sit down with some lawyers and some people who understand how much the salaries would cost to actually monitor those. Like, do you think the juice is worth the squeeze hiring people in the risk room to manage player props? Or you just take a third-party operator and be content to take a beating?
So realistically, what you're talking about doing, if you're gonna, it sounds like your way to attack this is to try to do a Circa model, but offer more. Is that about right?
Yeah, and because there's three ways, really, is with anything that's not offered at Circa. Let's say the smaller markets, the softer markets, the prop markets, the fun stuff that advantage players are going to take advantage of, whether it's picking off bad numbers or playing arbitrage against you. I know some guys who play, they play some really, they're betting $1,000 on player props just because there's a 5-cent arbitrage.
Sure.
Do that for enough years, and you'll make a bunch of money if you keep the accounts open.
There's a lot of player props. If you can get $50 out of every one, why not? Yes.
I mean, so you have three options. You either go Circa route and don't offer that stuff. You go the route of, the current operators. You offer it,
recognize it's soft, and limit.
Limit people if they're just taking advantage of you there and they're not doing enough cover play to keep you happy. Or the third option is just get the shit beat out of you on those, keep the limits low, and then maybe. And the reason why I think this isn't feasible is because nobody's doing it. But like, how many people would it take to manage the risk on all those things if you offer decent limits? So this is a really tough quandary right off the bat.
Okay, so I think you want to go that route where you're making good markets for what the players in the US want to play, and that's largely props, right? And I think we probably are well enough connected that you could scoop and get participation from a market making standpoint from some of the better folks in the space. And as you know, there are a lot of sharp players that live in the United States that can only get down by spreading their action out across lots of paperheads, right? We know these people. We know of them. We know them personally, right? Yeah. And I think it would be an interesting proposition to go to those type of folks and say, are you tired of trying to shake down some college bookie for your $500, for these accounts? Like, are you tired of getting stiffed in X, Y, and Z because, your stuff is too good? Like, come work for us. Like, we'll give you some sort of equity in this book that we're starting. And you're going to be able to, shape markets that are the sharper markets for these types of props that we know that people want to play. I think you're going to have to offer them equity if you do that. But I do think there's probably a valuable proposition to be had to bring those people into the fold, because at some point, like, yes, you may be able to make more money that way, being an advantage player, spreading your bets out across lots of paperheads. But at some point, like, that grind is miserable. I don't have the stomach for it. I can tell you without question, I don't have the stomach for it. So I think what you probably need to do for Andy Book is literally just kind of get the good market making players who are currently playing across PPHs and bring them in to your risk room and have like a kind of like, just an absolute, all-star team of market.
And I just feel like you'd lose money on that. So let's pretend we're fine losing money on that because we just want to be, maybe that is our loss leader. You go look at the DraftKings numbers, they spend 3 times what they take in on advertising, and they're fine with it because their customer acquisition is key right now in the growth period of the US betting market. Maybe you're fine by that big. I just feel like the salary you would have to pay a guy to manage your college basketball props for the whole season would be probably maybe not worth the margin that you'd be able to pull out of those smaller markets.
Well, that's just it. You're not giving them salary. You're giving them equity for the most part, right? Like, they're earning what they're taking. You know what I mean? Like, and honestly, like, if you're talking about bringing in super competitive gamblers anyway, And if they're getting beat in the markets they're making, like, you know, there's you're going to grind out some value if you do it this way, I think.
Yeah, I think the guy might tell us to kick rocks after 2 weeks once he realizes like the margins on, you know, smaller markets like that. I don't think it's feasible. I love the idea.
I think I think for this to work, what we need to have happen is basically, rather than getting seed money to start this from scratch, this is literally like DraftKings has come to Andy and said, like, we have a problem. We need to to offer these markets to recapture the share that's been conceded at this point.
Yeah, let's change the whole hypothetical here, because again, if you're doing this as a startup with no customer base,
you're never getting there.
So yeah, you either have to pay them a salary, which will be incredibly high compared to what you would get out of them from the, you know, the market the margin you'd make on that market. Or if you offered them equity, again, with no market, they'd tell you to pound sand in a week when they realized they just made $13 for 60 hours of work. And no, I think maybe a better hypothetical is, you know, hey, they gave us the keys to DraftKings or something, and we're here to fix some of the problems. Because if you did already have the customer base, if you had a big customer base that was playing props like that, and a small portion of them were advantage players, then I think it works. You need the volume. The volume has to be there, and the volume has to be there because it's an established brand with a big user base already. Then your little equity play with these guys on the back end probably works. I'd love somebody who's listening to this who maybe knows who does that. So I'd love to hear their opinion if that is something they'd ever do. Although, like,
well, I mean, why would somebody like the like a David Al and the Deck Prism guys, why would they jump ship from just extracting value to being, because that's basically what I'm what I'm saying is that you find the other guys who are doing it better on the betting side, and you say, hey, we can give you a more lucrative and a less stressful a more guarantee type of situation by putting you on the other side of the counter.
Yeah, the big argument for going to the other side of the counter is instead of laying minus 110, you are getting plus 110, and with props, it's usually minus 115, or worse. So
of course,
it's a big percentage swing. I think you could probably sell some people on it. I'd like somebody to come and poke more holes in that, because
so basically we bring in the end boss originators for the prop space who are tired of trying to grind out betting across 100 paperhead books and getting stiffed by college kids, and we say, okay, now instead of betting 115 into these props, into these paperheads, which you're making absurd money on doing, but is a pain in the ass, we're going to give you plus 115, but now we're going to effectively make DraftKings the place that you can come and bet $1,000 on any player prop in any market if you want. And that is just going to be a magnet of like lots of kind of the mid-tier, upper tier advantage players who aren't the end boss originator, who are like, holy crap, I can get $1,000 on player props. I'm going there. Right. Like that's the thesis generally.
Sure.
Okay. I think that might work actually. I mean, certainly there's a reason that, that the market maker, the big deal market makers bring in a team like David Al's Deck Prism for making their live markets. It's like you get beat by them enough, you're like, oh, wow, this product will absolutely crush anyone that wants to play it, which is kind of maybe another thing beyond just the player product.
And
like, if you can offer a better live product, are you going to help boost your positioning in the U.S. market?
So the end game is user experience here, because I really do think at worst it's a loss leader. At best, it's a very small margin, because you'd have to give these end boss originators that you're bringing to the other side of the counter, you'd have to give
meaningful equity,
very meaningful equity, where they're almost just taking all your profits from those markets that they're creating the profits, and they deserve a good chunk of it. They're taking a hefty percentage of that. And I think at that point, I might be happy with that.
Yeah.
If you can tell me I can offer the best prop markets in the world at the highest limits.
Yes.
Not worry about limiting players, worry about my guys beating those players.
Yeah.
And I break even on it. I think that's a really, really nice user experience feature and benefit that I'm fine breaking even on. And I was going to say what you need is still, and I don't really know if the marketing is super necessary for this, because once you've put this seed in people's heads, the marketing can just be social media at that point.
Sure.
But like
right.
you to augment your P&L here, you still need people playing same game parlays out there, out the ass, like all day, every day.
Sure.
So like, because I
Which
think
you'll
in
get,
the end,
but presumably your pricing for those will be even better.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you're fine on those. Like people aren't ever going to beat you on same game parlays. So like, I think all the marketing is focused on just you shift every little bit of marketing you have towards the stuff that makes money. And I feel bad about it sometimes because like, hey, these people think they're going to win because they send out tweets showing the guy that took 10 cents and picked the, 9 people to score the first basket in 9 games and hit it somehow. And he won like $17,000 with a dime. And that's not going to happen to you.
Andy, you've made money in this space. We're long past the point where we have to feel bad about taking money from players.
No, I was there at the end of the sentence. There was a but. I just think those people are very necessary for the ecosystem, and I don't think it's dissimilar from buying a Powerball ticket. Like a lot of these people, you do see these tickets where somebody put $1,000 on like some massive long shot parlay, made $250,000, but a lot of these little same game parlays that you see that get shared on social media are betting $1. They're betting $5. Like, I don't have a problem with cleaning up on that market in volume because it's way more fun than the Powerball. Like the Powerball or even scratch offs, I guess, where some people enjoy scratch offs or pull tabs where you do it, it's a little less passive. That's fine. But like a same game parlay, as treating it as a lottery ticket like that, it's way more fun because you already enjoy sports.
Yeah, you're gonna sit and watch the game.
You enjoy tracking it, the sweat of it. There's no sweat with the lottery. It's not like, oh man, like I got beat by the hook on the Powerball.
Yeah. So I think in order to make this work, the volume on the player props is like, I don't think the volume on player props is low because they limit customers. I think it's just it's a little bit niche. I think you're going to have to, for this to work, I think you're going to have a live product that absolutely kicks ass also. Because some of the players that you want to scoop here aren't just players that you want to be betting into, betting big, limit betting into your player prop market. I think you want players who are also trying to limit bet into your live market. But you're right. If you do this and you do this well, then your CEO is out on social media doing interviews, calling other books a dressmaker. Like, yeah, we'll take your $1,000 on, some random rebound and assist prop on your Steven Adams rebounds plus assist prop. Like we'll take that that action, no problem. Give us your $1,000. And then, you're probably going to scoop that kind of middle class right now that's not being especially well served by the market right now. And that helps you recoup some of maybe the ground you'd conceded, to the FanDuels of the world. I think that works.
Yeah, I think that's something people have been aiming at doing better for. Well, like you mentioned, David Au and what is the name of their brand again?
Deck Prism.
There you go. Like the Deck Prism thing. Like,
just a real quick aside.
Yeah.
If you want any recommendation, if you're kind of new to the space, and we've gotten loads and loads and loads of questions, DMs, messages during our live broadcast about like, hey, how can I do X, Y, and Z to be a better player? Just go read Logic of Sports Betting. Like that there's no class that you can take that will give you more of a head start to improving your just perspective on what it takes to be an advantage player than just reading Logic of Sports Betting.
Even if you're experienced, called, right? If you're pretty experienced, like 80, 90, maybe 100% of that book is going to be review and stuff you already know.
Of course.
But yeah.
Told in an entertaining way that crystallizes a lot of what you probably understand.
They do such a good job of explaining things. And we were lucky enough to get some advanced copies. I read it on the computer. It was great. Like
absolutely.
I
should
felt
reread
bad.
it, even though I'm sure I would learn something rereading it.
So I own a paperback copy of it as well. But yeah, it's for sure like that's worth reading. Back to live betting. That's probably the future. And you talk about the European model of sports booking. That's a whole different thing. But the European model of customer, offering the customer what they want, they've figured it out. Like live betting and exchanges. People love swapping and trading. People love live betting their soccer, their tennis, their cricket, I suppose. I've never live bet cricket. I'm sure that's a thing. But the live betting products do leave something to be desired here. Let's just start listing problems. Like, and again, I think the first problem is the VIG is high. I don't think that's changing. I don't think that's changing.
I actually don't know that that's a problem. I don't think people really care about
it's
that.
Not. I think the average user isn't going to care. I think that's something that can bite you in the ass eventually. Is if you do too much live betting at minus 120, that's going to hurt a lot quicker if you're having the same results as your pregame stuff. But I don't think that's changing because it's not something they have the time to actively trade. A lot of it is going to be automated, and they're going to have to charge extra VIG. That's just life. The spinning wheel, that is a big problem. Inconsistency in what they offer.
The spinning wheel is a problem in general because it just makes people want to fucking shoot them. It just makes them want to fire you into the sun. They're like, I'm never playing here again. I've had enough, like kind of shit. And you can't have that happen, I don't think. What are some other problems?
Honestly, maybe the biggest one, I think just a lack of markets. And that's just tech. That's a tech thing where people just have to make the investment. We have the seed money, so we're going to do it. I feel like, again, if we're pretending we're fixing DraftKings, I guess, like the live products offered by most of the legal books is okay. There's a lot of the offshores you see. It's especially, remember the Five Dimes had like 4 different live products at one point, and they were all from just third-party operators, and they were all a little different. And if you knew what you were doing, you knew, like, if I'm betting this sport, I should go to this one because they have slightly better prices. If I'm betting this sport, I should go here because it doesn't exist on the other 3. You get to know them, but I think maybe just the wild inconsistency in the market availabilities, and is it all the wheel? It's like 90% the spinning wheel.
Yeah, mostly I think that would be my gut. I don't know. I mean that the things that I would almost be more worried about if you're a market leader already, or you're trying to take the 1 spot and you're the number 2 right now in the sports betting space in the US. I'm a little worried about live becoming a churn problem because, as you mentioned, like the VIG is higher. You're going to churn through customers even faster if it's something they love and they are playing regularly. That draws down accounts very quickly. Same way as like blackjack in the casino, like it's a significant drawdown. And so if you want you don't want to overfish. And I think that's somewhat of a concern for a lot of these places, and the same game parlay stuff and the Barstool model. Like the Barstool model, if you were to tell me that's not sustainable because they're going to overfish, I would say, yes, that sounds correct. Like, that you're going to, you at some point the redeposits are going to stop because people are like, I got to quit doing this because I'm not having fun anymore. I think I would try to be cognizant of that.
You raised a very interesting, maybe the most important thing about this whole venture. And I think there's CEOs all over the country who are having these conversations behind closed doors who are working on these sports books, because you talk about the advantage players. I think the first part of what we did was like mitigating how much they could hurt you without being dicks about it. Which is fine. If you can mitigate that, then your next problem is, all right, we're not making any money off those people, but they're not killing us anymore. We're letting them play here, but it's harder, which honestly might drive them away.
I think I got to rephrase what you're saying though.
Yeah,
I don't even. What we're trying to actually do is make money off of those players, because we have like tier 2 advantage players. We have the end boss making the market.
Do you remember my math though? I think the money you make off them is gone because of what you'd have to invest in those end bosses.
Okay. Correct.
So in the very bottom line of the balance sheet, if we were just looking at that stuff, it's a net neutral.
Yes.
So we still have to make money.
Yeah.
And I think there's a delicate balance between, customer acquisition is still number one. You have to advertise, you have to do that. I'm not interested in talking about that. That's fine. Like, customer acquisition is easy. You just you do, there's a few tricks and they all work. Like, get an influencer who gets people excited about clicking on the link that they're offering, and that sort of works. And the promos that they're able to offer, that sort of stuff is always going to happen. I think the path for that is written out. It's the customer retention. You talk about churn. I don't know if everyone completely understood what you meant by churn. I thought you went into it a little more and explained, but it is like, if a guy goes there, just imagine Chevy Chase and Vegas Vacation, where and then picture yourself where you went to a casino and you had a good time, and maybe you lost $50, but you got to play blackjack for like 3 hours and you kind of just broke even-ish. And that's fun. Like, that's a fun experience for a lot of people. Just
absolutely.
Go to the casino, play some card games.
I would do it tomorrow if you could tell me that I would only lose $50. Yeah, and I would get 3 hours of entertainment. Yeah.
You don't get the shit kicked out of you. You don't get rich, but it's fun, especially craps, some roulette, like the casino stuff. But yeah, if you have that Chevy Chase experience at the Sportsbook where you go and everything is juiced to the gills, everything is one-way markets with infinity vig, and you deposit a few $100 on payday and you lose it all that weekend, and that happens 3 or 4 times in a row. Like, that's the churn. This guy might be like, I'm going back to DFS.
This was supposed to be fun, and
I'm going to play fantasy football. I'm downloading Underdog. I'm going to be a best ball guy. That's a way to slowly lose money instead. That's the part of what do you offer that offers a fun experience for the people who are fine treating this as very recreational, that doesn't kill them too fast, but you create enough volume to make yourself a profit. There are some products out there now, the micro betting, where you can bet. There's 2 or 3 companies that are starting to do this, that are offering it certain places now, where you can be betting on, and it's funny going back to the Al Leiter comments, but you can bet on very granular parts of the game. And I think, some of these rec bettors would be fine just betting $1 on, who's catching the next pass in the football game.
Sure.
Really granular stuff like that, where everything, do you remember, I think maybe Bet Online has this set up. Several books have it set up on the live betting, where instead of clicking the bet you want to make, putting it in the slip, entering your amount, clicking submit, you can set it up for one click.
Sure. Yeah.
I think people would enjoy that at small amounts on a really nice interface like that, where you set it up for your really granular shit in a football game. Like, what happens on the next, how many yards are gained on the next play? And it's 4 different, negative whatever, negative through 2 yards, 3 through 5, or 6 through a touchdown. And you click on it and just place a quick $1 bet on it, or a $5 bet. You set that to whatever you want. Like, that's a product that would be, the micro betting, I think, is maybe next.
Okay.
Although really, 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 I think maybe we're trying to reinvent the wheel, because same game parlays are same game parlays.
Same deal.
They seem to be all that anyone wants to do now.
Yeah, that's That's a surprise because I don't know that really originated. Like I don't think you could have looked at anything that was successful in Europe and been like, oh, well, that'll work. This will work here.
I mean,
like, do they have that?
Yeah, Akkas.
Oh, Akkas. Yeah. But
do you remember? All right, this is a throwback to you from the tennis chat.
Okay.
Remember our little and he a little problematic at times, Sam.
Yes,
Sam.
Sure.
Sam from Manchester.
Sure.
He was a Manchester boy.
Yeah.
He would always have, and obviously we're all sitting here in America and we're betting on our offshores.
Yes.
And he would pull up like his accounts over there, like Ladbrokes or Coral or whatever, Corral. And he would show us the wildest.
Yeah.
And this was 5 years ago. He would show us the wildest fucking parlays he'd place he's a big City fan.
Yes.
And he would place like this guy would have 3 tackles.
This guy would have a header that hits the frame.
Yeah, I mean the stuff that he was doing. I think the same game parlay is exceedingly European in the way that those guys would put a 10-fold Akka on, like over. And you see the same kind of things here where people are putting minus 1,500 money line parlays together, 25 legs of it on college basketball. A lot of those, just because of the wild amount of markets they'd offer, you'd see people do that on. There will be at least 2 corners in this game where the corners line was like 8.5 and they'd go over 1.5 minus 2,000 or 1.05 and they put a bunch of those together at an Akka. It is the same kind of thing. It's just with different sports and the real problem with that obviously is nobody, even maybe the smartest people we know, can really, really math out the level of correlation and realize I was about to say realize if you're getting put over the barrel on your odds. You are getting put over the barrel.
Yeah, you can assume you are.
I'm not even assuming. I will say that is a very big certainty.
Yeah.
Unless they have some broken odds or something, or the math is broken in their back end. But nobody can really know just how badly. And that's the part of it. That number looks big. Like you put together your 10-leg parlay. It's like, fuck, this pays 500 to 1. Like, again, it might take a team of math guys a week to figure out, yeah, it should have paid 1,200 to 1.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
That's why they crush.
Let me put the shoe on the other foot now and then tell you what I'm going to do with my seed money. You tell me if I'm going to lose my ass or if this has legs. We are going to start fresh. Well, maybe not. Well, we're going to piggyback off.
Hard.
We're going to piggyback off.
Add some caveats. Add some caveats to help you.
Yeah, we're going to piggyback off of Circa here in a couple ways because we're going to use their pricing for a lot of this. Okay? We're going to expand Circa, but we are going to do it in an interesting way. One of the issues that you have if you're a Circa is that it's harder to identify. It's harder to scoop the whales and get them to play at Circa because Circa doesn't offer lots of bells and whistles and the frilly fun customer service type of experience, right? Like they're good guys, but they have the cool pool, they have a cool book itself, but like other than that, like it's not easy to bring the whales in, which is something that I'm going to go after for my endeavor here. We are going to target the super rich, willing to donk away 6 figures type of better.
Okay. I mean, step 1, build it right in Houston. Figure out where Mr. Mac lives. Build it across the street from his house.
We're gonna come to Mac. No, we don't want Mac's business. We want the guys who don't want. Well, I would probably want his business as well, but we want 100 of those guys, and we are gonna get there. This is actually, where this idea came from. You remember when they had the the 2 things happened around the same time. They had like the match 2, 3, or 4 or whatever. It was Mickelson and Brady and a bunch of guys, and they did it at the Yellowstone Club.
Yep.
You remember that? And had you ever heard of the Yellowstone Club before that? No, I haven't either. I consider myself someone who knows about rich people things, even though I'm not a rich person. But I had still never heard of the Yellowstone Club, and I was kind of like, Jesus Christ, like what is this is crazy. Like Brady just has like a membership at the Yellowstone Club, and really what you get for that is really just like access to big sky skiing and golf in the summer, and like it's cool, the great outdoors, and they have like the private airfield right next to it, blah blah blah. But like and I'm like, okay, like if there's a market for that like level of like club among like the super rich, like, and then at the same time, somebody must have shared it in one of our chats. They were like, hey, look at this cool like gambling club that they have in London. And it was literally just like a pimped out bar. And it was like, you just go there, you're part of the club. You have basically concierge betting, service. You have like an account manager who does all your stuff for you. And I was like, that's cool. And I was like, there's definitely a way to, like do like a $100,000 like membership fee. If you bet X over the balance of the year, you get your membership fee back. Like we'll write you no limit on NFL, NBA, whatever you want. We're gonna have like members Calcuttas where you can come and have like a poker week before March Madness, and we'll do a Calcutta with the other members, and like really get people who want high limit, no limit type of play from across the country and consolidate them all into some kind of cool club like that. Like there's plenty of, I feel like, resort, you get it, you go to Wall Street, you find a hedge fund that has some distressed resort properties in Colorado, and we're going to convert those now to ski, golf, and then a gambling club. And then, now we're going to recruit the people who want to be, who are whales, who don't care about losing, $100,000 on an NFL Sunday bet. And we are going to give them concierge betting experience. Does this have legs, Andy?
It seems like it would be very expensive to get off the ground, and people like that, those people, listen to me. You would need to have somebody involved, like to talk to them. Like they don't want to hear from someone they don't know. Like they don't want to be sold on that. They need to be sold on this by a rich buddy.
Yeah.
So you got to get like, step one is getting buy-in from one key person with the network, and turning him into the salesperson. That's the only way it works. It makes me think of that. Remember Congaree? They had to use that other golf course because they canceled. I think they canceled RBC Canada last year, and it was another one. Like every one of my golf betting friends is like, oh, I've never really heard of this course. It's because it has two members. And they're both, it was like they're both, and one's dead. One was like the owner of the Houston Texans, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, the other one's a billionaire. Like it's not a club like you like. I don't know if it's distressed properties or talking to clubs like that and being like, hey, we're gonna put a cool back room in here, and it's gonna be like a members only, the feel of a poker club or a cigar bar where or this the place on Squid Game where all the people in the masks come in and watch them fall through the glass. Spoilers if you haven't seen that. 6 months later, guys. But yeah, that I think like the uber elite clubs like that, you latch onto their. Once you get the first one set up, you latch onto their clientele.
Yes,
because it's not the country club clientele. It's
no.
It's the CEOs who write the checks to the country club clientele.
Yeah, I mean, like what I'm trying to capture the people who like wanted to play like Molly's game, poker game in New York City, right? Like we're talking about this. The club has a private plane. You're flying people to, for weekends, from all across the country, bringing them to your venue for skiing, for golf, for whatever, and you're writing them no limit bets on whatever they want, and you're back-ending your prices with the Circa market and things like that.
No limit soldier.
I mean, honestly, like I feel like you could probably get away with super low margins. You could probably get away with you could probably
write to, though.
Would you have to? I mean, yeah,
no.
but I guess I feel like there is a whale class out there who you could scoop. And you could put on, like, you have like a poker tournament where you bring in, hey, you want to play poker against Phil Ivey this week? Like, oh, hey, you want to play golf against Phil Mickelson? Well, we got Mickelson this week. He's coming, come by and play. Like you could absolutely juice this in a lot of ways that gets you. I don't know. I guess if you have $100,000 membership fee, six figure club here. What and what how many members do you need to sign up to make this a profitable endeavor?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not a numbers guy. I mean, it would depend on your, like, basically, I was about to say you'd need to cover your overhead, but would you? Those guys aren't going to win.
No, no. And honestly,
and at the high limit bets, your margin, your margin just goes up. Even though it's low volume, high limit, I still don't think you know what? I still don't think you're competing for profit with the high volume, low limit, same game parlay thing crushes this.
No, I don't care. I don't care about customer acquisition in the low end. I'm not trying to grind out.
What are you trying to do? What's the end goal then?
I just want
to
build something cool and be able to hang.
Then you've done it. So your answer is like you need to figure out your overhead, and then I really think the VIG in your profit margin on the betting would cover the overhead, and then the member fees are just gravy.
I think you're mostly giving those back because people are meeting the minimum that they need to bet over the balance of the season to get refunded.
They would need to spend X amount on food and booze every month too.
There you go. Yeah.
Country club rules.
Country club rules. Yep. Absolutely. Yacht club rules. Country club rules.
You gotta bring the family in, and they can't come in this room. No kids allowed in this room. But
for sure.
Bring them in on Saturdays. For,
you do a big event. You do a big event. NFC AFC Championship weekend.
Dinner parties.
Yeah. Poker tournament. And everybody can ski. You got a poker tournament at night. Winner of the tournament gets like Super Bowl tickets, like for some suite. Yeah, I mean, like really kind of thinking outside the box here in terms of like the uber luxury player experience, so that you keep these people happy, keep them betting and coming, and I mean, they have their agent that they make the bets for, and they don't. There's probably some legal maneuvering that you have to go through, but they fly home to Houston, they fly home to Miami Beach, they fly home to La Jolla or whatever. Like, they have their agent who's able to make bets for them whenever in the legal jurisdiction of Colorado or whatever.
Yeah, you offer the service of where you have part of a golf course where you can go out there and take a picture of him, send it to the wife. Golf trip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we have a pond out back with a fishing boat in it. We'll put you on and take a picture of you on. I was gonna say, you brought up legal. I was gonna say you might have to get a little into the underworld on this sort of thing.
Oh, well,
there's drugs and prostitutes. It kind of goes without saying. Like I'm not just trying to be funny. Like, the ultra rich are going to want things.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just saying you're probably ending up in jail for this, but it's going to be awesome.
I'm not. No, for sure not. I'm not involved with anything like that. But
I didn't know that was happening.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that in this
establishment. I'm not saying you have to let them like hunt people. Most dangerous game.
No, but you grab a piece of property in Cancun, send them down there for or not Cancun, Cabo, send them down there for deep sea fishing trips and whatnot. Send people down to basically sprinkle them all around North America to give people in this club good reason to tell their rich buddies that you should join this club. And if you bet over $100,000, or you make the minimum of $500,000 in bets a year in total handle, then you get your $100,000 membership fee returned, or you can apply that towards other cool shit, trips and game tickets, things like that.
Say half back.
Yeah.
Because even if they bet $1 million, if they lost every bet, That's still only 100 in vig.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. The other kind of key for this, and really what I'm laying out here is a lot of what I think is going on in the current, like the limiting of customers and things like that, and like the race that's going on in terms of customer acquisition. Like there's like, you're really trying hard to find the whales and bring them into your book and give them access to bet whatever they want. Like the $1 million bets that you see come across for the Super Bowl, like those are by the whales that they've identified and have curated as long-term customers at these places. We want to steal those from the legal shops and bring them all into our fold and give them concierge betting experience, so that they're like, why would I bet on my FanDuel app? I have a guy that I call and get whatever no limit bet I want, and and there's a reason to do this because I get something back at the end of the year, or I get to go hang out at this club.
I was going to say that the deeper you get into this already happens. Like
this already happens. We're just trying to take those customers and give them a reason to only bet with us.
Yeah, it'd be a tough sell, because I think a lot of them do have relationships with casinos already where they will, I'm wiring money for the Final Four, place these bets. Like that's a tough sell for those guys.
Yeah, but there's a level of, okay, cool. What do I get out of all this? Is I get to come to Vegas and I get to eat at a fancy restaurant and I get to get a free round of golf out of it. We're trying to beat that in terms of luxury experience by having a cooler club.
Yeah.
And a more elite club. Anyone can go eat at friggin', the fancy steakhouse at the Wynn and get a free round of golf at the Wynn. You have to be in this club in order to play here.
Yeah,
and
Christ, I've got
have this experience.
Food at the Wynn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I was gonna say it might be a tough sell, because I think these guys have good relationships. I had a funny experience with. It's funny, like Andy with a casino host. We're just trying to get like set up for the next time we're out, and we're sitting down to like, check our play. Can we get free rooms in 3 months when we come back for like some football stuff? Mm-hmm. And the guy picks up his phone and he's like, shit, I have to take this. And he says, what? Into the phone? He's like, what do you mean? Give me 5 minutes. Give me a minute. And he apologizes profusely because we're with him, and he's like, I really have to go. And he's like, I don't know how to sugarcoat this, but this guy's super important, and I have to go okay some markers or whatever. And I'm like, did he lose? He's like, yeah, this guy just lost 25 grand in like 3 spins at roulette, and I told him to take it easy, so I have to go get him like another 50. Like just
oh my god,
like the it's like the Drake picture.
Yeah.
Like roulette.
Yeah.
Like what is this guy doing? I was just there at the Wynn. It's funny how like, and those guys, like, they have good relationships with their casino hosts and their sports. It's tough.
Like, so what we need to do then is
the brand loyalty is high.
So, but to start out though, we need to
I didn't have that guy's cell phone number.
We just need to find a disgruntled host who's just like dying to I'm not respected. The Wynn's not respecting me. They're not giving me what I brought in, 8 new customers last year, and they're all limit betting in the high roller room. You bring that guy over, and then all of a sudden, because I honestly, I think the fact that it is a club, that you have to have I think the fact that you're making it exclusive, I guess that's a magnet.
And you see this a lot in Vegas, and if somebody's already doing it from a marketing standpoint, it means they're right, because a lot of those if they're still open and they're successful, but the targeting the Asian market,
sure,
that's such a big thing in Vegas. There's a lot of casinos are just built to look, with some Asian themes, a lot of Asian restaurants. And I asked that once. This is the same casino. I think this was the Wynn as well. Yeah, it was the Wynn. I was out there in December, and it was just it was slow, because the only time I'd ever been there before was March Madness trips. And I'm like, well, it's way different vibe. And they're like, yeah, the off season, the winter's different. I said, what happens after like New Year's? Is it just fucked? Are you just like dead? And she's like, here, kind of, and other places, yes. She's like, but she's like, we do have this thing where it's like 30 really rich businessmen from China fly in for the Chinese New Year, and they all have like $1 million plus credit lines at the cage, and they just play their face off at the baccarat tables for like a month. And she's like, that just kind of makes our off season. It's like the amount of money those guys spend and tip. She's like, it's fine. She's like, those guys, what they're gonna tip is what a really packed room of a bunch of people playing $25 blackjack would for a day. It's like, so it's fine. So I just thought of that story because I think maybe we need to have a club in Macau.
Or even better, when it becomes legal in Hawaii, we set up shop in Hawaii, and then we're catching all of the Asian folks who don't want to fly all the way across the Pacific, but only halfway across the Pacific, and be in an absolute tropical paradise.
I like Maui. I could live there.
There we go. Yeah. Is betting's not legal in Hawaii yet, is it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I feel
Let's
like
keep an eye on this.
They've fought it a little.
What we'll do is we'll set up one in Hawaii, one in Colorado, and we just need some distressed luxury properties to convert.
So you're gonna go whale hunting, and I'm gonna and
you're gonna fix DraftKings.
And well, no, I was gonna say I'm going to drop my net and pick up all the krill.
Yes.
Like, oh, there it is. Found it.
Yeah. You're basically gonna PR crisis solve the PR crisis.
And, you need to do. Yeah. And again, like the richer you are, the more things you can do that aren't super ethical. Like, remember when it was U2? Like, everybody who had an iPhone just got that song downloaded that one day.
Yes, I remember this.
That was a long time ago now. I might be dating myself with that.
No, I think that's still on my iPhone. That super garbage album is still on my iPhone.
It was a whole album. You just got one day. You just had a YouTube album on your phone.
Yeah,
you need to be able to do that with your draft app. Like, when they buy a phone, it already has like, oh, my phone has these few apps. Oh, it has the FanDuel app. Like, like. I'm getting push notifications, right? I didn't need to sign up. I don't know how that works. There needs to be a way to like cut some corners on the acquisition side.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, final thought on all this stuff, and then we'll call it a pod. There's been a lot of people who have kind of, it's not a mystery. Bet365 absolutely dominates and makes money hand over fist in the European markets, and there are a lot of lessons you can take about the why and how that succeeds and apply that to a U.S. endeavor. The key, though, and a lot of people are navel gazing. Well, why isn't Bet365 entering the U.S. market? They literally see the writing on the wall. Customer acquisition is too expensive. Like, let it cool off. We don't care. We have a product that we believe is superior, and we think we can scoop in at any point in time and offer it and take over enough of a share of the customer base that there's no rush to do so, especially at the cost per customer acquisition now in the US. And at some point, the balance will tilt, and it will be effective for them to do that, and they will come. And so there's kind of a little bit of a clock on this, I would say, where at some point, if you haven't figured out what your role in the space is and how you are going to distinguish yourself, the Bet365 hammer is probably coming.
I'm excited for some of the European and Caribbean books to find their way. I think some of the Pinnacle. Pinnacle used to be a book that was offered in the US. Like, it just
that's true.
Before
my time.
Well, the old, let's call it old Pinnacle. The old Pinnacle model was very low margin. They just they made money different ways. That's a whole nother podcast. The Pinnacle story is very interesting, but they just with the regulation, it wouldn't work. And the way Pinnacle's pivoted a little, I think they could make it work. I think Bookmaker could definitely make it work. 365 is already making it work. They're in Jersey.
Yeah, but they are very lightly spending.
Yeah, no, like the expansion hasn't come yet. With all the states that they could possibly be in. Well, they're just not interested in being in a state with like high regulation prices or the high cost of business and the amount of spend the competitors are doing.
Right, they have enough of a foothold where they are that there's not there's no emergency or crisis for them to rush. They can be patient, which is a huge advantage, I think.
I'm not 100% sure what I think of like the rest of the European books if I'd want to see them. I think if Pinnacle, Bookmaker, and 365 were available around here, I think I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Final question for you. Are you even excited for legal sports betting to come to California? Dude, I mean, my answer is no. I mean, I'm not looking forward to. We started this podcast talking about how we viewed the market right as PASPA was repealed. When that happened, I was excited. I said, "Oh, this will be fun. We'll have some options. I might have a brick and mortar place I can go hang out at a sportsbook." In the past, I'd only been able to do that in Vegas, and I thought that would be cool. Right now, it's like, well, if I'm just gonna churn and get limited on like low limit or low liquidity markets, then I guess it'll be fun to get the promos. Like the first week will be fun getting all the free shit. But after that, it's
Andy.
What?
The answer to this question is obviously yes. I would be excited.
I think I'm still excited.
Not for the reasons that you would think. Not because I could go make a bet at my local shop, or not because I could bet on an app in my phone finally, legally. We've been building up and positioning ourselves to be, we've been building a brand with the deep dive going on 5 years. If California was a legalized betting state and ultimately forced the United States to become full on, everyone now has legal betting options, like everything we've done to build up the deep dive brand will be worth that much more. And
I mean, that's fair.
That's the end game windfall for being involved in the content space at all. I mean, it's obviously
I get that.
Fun doing all this, but
that wasn't you're making a really good point. It just wasn't the question I was asking.
I wasn't the question. I know it wasn't the question you were asking, but
no, it was a good answer in the long run.
Yeah.
But and truthfully, I think I still am excited. Like the sports books in Iowa are shit. Like as far as like the physical location. If you compare it to going to Circa in Vegas, going to, the Superbook in Vegas, but that's to be expected. I mean, you're not going to go to Waterloo, Iowa and expect to be, out at the Circa pool. It's still like I said, it's shit. It's still a lot cooler than what I have here. I don't have a sports book. And, the local casinos here in Minnesota, I can't go sit at a sports book and watch the sports and bet on things. Like it is still something to be excited about, I think, eventually.
Yeah. No. There are for as a player, I'm lukewarm, but ultimately excited if it becomes legal in California. As a media personality in the betting space who has built a brand over 5 years, it would be like we would have a party. Like if and when it happens, it would be a big day.
Yeah. And I mean, I shouldn't shit talk all of Iowa. I remember, Darren.
Yeah, of course.
When I drove out to Denver with the family, I made my wife said, "Oh, we should stop halfway because it's a long drive." I said, "Yeah, maybe like Council Bluffs. That would be a good spot to start because there's casinos there." And and Darren took me out, and like a couple of those are actually halfway decent sports books they've put together.
Sure.
Like there's some nice looks out there, so. It will be exciting to do that, and yes, the opportunities it will afford eventually will be cool.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, with that, excited if you want to touch base, and if offer Andy the keys to your sportsbook to save it, or give me the seed money to create the High Rollers
You didn't
Club.
name your club. You got to name the club.
High Roller Club, something like that. We'll workshop.
It's got to have a cool name like the Skeleton Society. Or what the Skulls? What's the thing? The Skulls?
Ooh. I don't know what you're talking about, Andy.
Yeah.
Never heard of them.
You went to Duke.
Never heard of them. Nope, nothing. Never heard of it. With that, all right. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Send.
I cut you off.
Send some skiing pictures.
Oh, of course. I absolutely will.
I should check the weather here. Maybe I'll just go up to Afton Alps this weekend.
Oh, now we're talking.
Oh man, my golf pick is doing. Lucas Glover broke himself apparently.